Adulting, where I take you through my journey of adulting, and today I'm going to be talking about 5 things that I loved when I was in Ecuador. So the number one thing that I loved about Ecuador was the food, the ceviche, the encebollado, the cuy. There was so much good food, and I'm African, and the food was very similar to African food. The rice, the chicken, the soup. I was not a big fan of soup until I went to Ecuador. Until I realized that they really ate it as part of the lunch menu all the time. It's when I got accustomed to it, but it was really good soup. And I don't like soup like that. But the soup, Ecuador was amazing. But honestly, the food is always the best part about traveling, and I think the food in Ecuador is top notch. And alongside all the things I'm going to be describing today, the food has to be number one because the food was amazing. As compared to the food in London, which for me wasn't that good, like normal British food wasn't that great, but the food in Ecuador was spectacular. Like to this day, I'm still trying to find an Ecuadorian restaurant where I can go and get that same type of ceviche that I had when I was in the coast. But number one thing that I love about Ecuador, the food. So the second thing that I loved about Ecuador was the music. Throughout the whole summer, the number one song that I heard everywhere that I went was I heard this song literally everywhere, to the point where I really thought the song was in my dreams. I would wake up and I would just be like, vamos a la playa. But the music was definitely a top-notch part. The indigenous music that I heard while touring some of the indigenous sites. The music was great. I'm a big fan of Spanish music. I thought it was great to be in an environment where they kind of played it all the time. I love the tunes, I love to dance. So for me, hearing Vamos a la Playa literally like every single day was not a bad thing. As a dancer, I'm ready to jam. I'm ready to move. But the music, especially during the nighttime, the nightlife, the music made the nightlife even more rich because it's just the authenticity of it all. I love me a good reggaeton song. But seriously though, I heard this song every single day. But music was definitely my second part about Ecuador. And if you're going to Ecuador, get ready to hear all these wonderful sounds, all these wonderful beats. So the third thing that I loved about Ecuador was the cathedrals. When I was in Spain, I thought the cathedrals there were wonderful and spectacular, but clearly South America does have a lot of Spaniard influence, but the cathedrals in Ecuador were astronomical. For lack of a better word, they were astronomical. I spent a lot of time in one of the cathedrals in Cuenca. I think it was a new cathedral in Cuenca, and it was just awe-inspiring. Literally the architecture there, I can just picture it right now. I'm going to insert some pictures in this video. Well, I'm gonna insert some pictures right at this point, but the cathedrals was so gorgeous. They were gold, the stained paintings were just amazing. They were huge. They were just filled with so much presence and I guess so much spirit and so much energy. From the cathedrals in Cuenca to the cathedrals in Quito, literally, if you don't go to one of the famous cathedrals in Ecuador, I don't know what you went there for, but definitely something to check out. It's the amazing architecture that is the churches, that is the huge cathedrals in Ecuador. So the fourth thing that I loved about Ecuador was the clouds and the mountains and overall just the nature. So when I went on a hike in the Cajas, and one of the things that the tour guide said that will forever be with me to this day was, she was like, this is what she said. She said, if you don't like clouds, don't come to Ecuador. And I 100% agree with that. It is cloudy a good portion of the time. At least, no, it is cloudy a good portion of the time, because I was going to say when I was in Bahia, it wasn't that cloudy, but now that I think about it, even though there was a lot of sun, there was a lot of clouds. So Ecuador is known for their cloud forests. Unfortunately, I couldn't go to any of those cloud forests, but on my bus ride to Cuenca from Guayaquil, let me tell you, I thought I was in the clouds. Cuenca is very high up in the mountains, when we were driving up there, like, I thought I was in the cloud forest already. So I was like, wow, if this is in the cloud forest, I wonder what the cloud forest is gonna be. But honestly, mountains, hiking. I like to hike a lot. I definitely didn't bring my hiking boots. I should have, but I wasn't expecting to go hiking as much as I did. I had my Converse. They did some things. I couldn't really climb Cotopaxi because I didn't have the gear for it. But hiking is a huge activity that you should consider doing when you go to Ecuador, because the view, the sights when you're on top of that mountain is gorgeous. But definitely mountains, clouds, sometimes I still remember it, sometimes I still think about it, just being at that height, just overlooking the city of Quito. Gorgeous. So the last thing that I love about Ecuador was really the culture and the history. I'm a huge history buff. I love learning about ancient civilizations, ancient cultures, and that's exactly what you get when you go to Ecuador. When I went to Inca you could see the trails that the Incans took. When I went to a lot of the museums in Cuenca, you got to see the history of the Afro-Ecuadorians. And when I was there, I was definitely mistaken for being an Afro-Ecuadorian, especially in Cuenca. I'm guessing people haven't really seen that many black people before in that area. I know not a lot of people had the privilege to travel as I have, but it was definitely interesting. It was definitely interesting to see the African influence in Ecuadorian culture. Again, being from Ghana and being from Africa, a lot of times when you think about the transatlantic slave trade, if you could really think about where all those slaves ended when they left the coast of West Africa, and being able to go to each individual country and see the influence that like African culture had on their recent culture, I think it's very it's noticeable. Like a lot of things I spot out, it's very noticeable. I think going to the coast, going to Bahia, it was definitely great to see the differences between being in the mountains and being out on the coast. Definitely the culture is completely different. One is cold and one is 100% hot, but seeing like where that discrepancy came from. Again, I love history. I love learning about new cultures. So if you're definitely planning to go to Ecuador, I would say definitely check out the free museums, because why wouldn't you go to a museum when you go to a new place? Isn't the whole point to learn something? But no, seriously, the whole point, it really is to learn something. I think I learned a lot about my own culture and the Ecuadorian culture and see how they differentiate and how they're similar, and then take that back with me and how it influences me as an individual, or even and then I get to see how it influences me not only as an individual but as a creative person, where you can really draw from your art based on your experiences on different places and different locations that you've been in. So that's the end of the video today, guys. So that was the 5 things that I love about Ecuador. It was such a wonderful experience to be able to go to another country, especially in South Africa, especially in South America. That was my first time in South America, and I think it was a really impactful and wonderful time. Ecuador is such a beautiful country, and I know with everything happening with COVID-19 right now and just like the world, people don't really have much space, or really you're not supposed to travel. It's quarantine, don't travel. But if you're definitely thinking about what your next travel destination should be, I think you should definitely consider putting Ecuador on that travel list. Again, this is Verge of Adulting. My name is Yaya, and I'm taking you on my journey of adulting. And one of the things involved with adulting is vacations. Or that should be involved with, it's a privilege, but that should be involved with adulting, is really exploring and traveling the world and seeing how the other side lives, and really taking those experiences and adding it to your life and adding it to the people around you, so that everybody can just learn new things and learn new things about themselves, because the world is big and there's so many things that you can learn. And I'm a learner. What I always like to say is I'm a lifelong learner, and so should you. So definitely check out Ecuador. If you like what you see, if you like the information that I gave you, definitely make sure to subscribe. Again, this channel is all about adulting. Adulting 101, vacation. Not really, because they're kind of expensive. And the corona.